The Wadden is a place where many different bird species come together. Some of these species are migratory birds. They come here to forage and gain strength for their long-distance flights. However, because of human input, these birds get disturbed, which can have a considerable impact on not only their mental health but also the environment. Disturbance can be divided into different sections. With continuous disturbance, the disturbance is present for a longer period of time. An example of this could be a festival that continues for numerous days. Impulsive disturbance is a disturbance that takes place for a short period of time, like people walking past, a boat passing by, or a plane flying over. The latter is the greatest disturbance for birds. Another big impulsive disturbance can be caused by dogs. Dogs are more likely to deviate from hiking paths and to run after birds, sometimes even harming them physically. Besides these two sections, disturbance can also be divided between direct and indirect disturbance. Direct disturbance has an instant effect on birds. It is often caused by hikers, bikers, and cars. Indirect disturbance is caused by human altering the quality of the habitat. Examples of these disturbances are pollution and artificial lighting. Birds that sing at higher frequencies are less likely to be affected by the sound of roads. This is because their singing is less omitted against the sound of the road. Impulsive disturbance is a temporary disturbance. Examples of these can be dogs, shooting of a gun, or screaming. Birds interpret these sounds as danger, even if they are not located in the pathway of the source of the disturbance. Physical presence of a vehicle in combination with the presence of human activities evoke responses. During research, when a car drove by, there was little to no response. The longer the vehicle was present in combination with a human, the more the birds responded. These responses range from looking up to flying away. Fighter jets cause a big disturbance with birds. They even cause birds to leave their nest. The sounds, in combination with the visual presence of a fighter jet, gives birds the same incentive as a predator. Artificial lighting can cause a disturbance in the natural behavior of birds. It disrupts their circadian rhythm. Some species are especially sensitive to the subject. Because of this, these species can disappear completely from a specific area. Vehicles cause a reduction in quality of food for these birds because of exhaust fumes and other harmful substances. They also cause birds to have less energy because they have to fly up and have less time for foraging. If they can't forage during the day, they have to forage during the night. This causes them to have less time for resting. They also have to be more alert during the day while foraging, which causes them to forage less and the energy intake to reduce. Firework increases alertness and an increase in flight behavior in birds. In presence of firework, birds fly up or give off an alarm signal to other foraging birds. The heart rate of a bird in flight is higher than that of a bird foraging or resting. When a bird is alert, the heart rate also increases. Birds that are often in the presence of humans can have a long-term increased heart rate and stress level. This is not necessarily visible in their behavior. A higher long-term heart rate causes for higher energy expenditure and chronic stress. Litter such as plastic can lead to blockage and internal injury. The presence of non-food items in a bird's gizzard can not only cause gastrointestinal blockage, but can also be related to food stimulus and activity. The influence of disturbance sources depends on the following factors: noise, its displacement, predictability, duration, and location. Disturbances located in the air have a greater influence. The purpose of the stress response is to mobilize the body so it can function as actively as possible in a threatening situation. If stress persists for too long, a state can arise in which the stress response is no longer the solution, but the problem itself. According to the full physical domains of Mellor, it has been found that birds often flee or are alert when disturbed. This causes stress. During stress, the sympathetic nervous system is activated, adrenaline, noradrenaline, and cortisol contents go up. The heart rate and blood sugar level also increase, which ensures that more energy can go to the muscles. In addition, breathing is increased, which increases the oxygen content in the blood. The digestion and immune system go down to conserve energy. The body starts to sweat to stay cool. The systems involved in stress responses are the autonomic nervous system, neuroendocrine system, and immune system. These systems influence each other.
The first phase of a stress response goes through the sympatho-adrenomedullary system. When a stressor is sensed by the hypothalamus, it activates the adrenal gland via the sympathetic nervous system, directing them to produce adrenaline and noradrenaline. These provide a flight or fight response. It increases heart rate and blood pressure, increases glucose in the blood, dilates bronchi to get more oxygen, and decreases the metabolism. The second phase, through the hypothalamic pituitary adrenal axis, is slower. It is activated almost simultaneously with the SAM pathway, but takes longer. Again, the stressor is sensed by the hypothalamus but then produces corticotropin-releasing hormones, abbreviated CRH. CRH binds ACTH. This is transported in the blood via the cortex of the adrenal glands. Here it ensures production of both minerals and glucocorticoids. This can cause increased blood pressure and glucose metabolism. It also leads to a partial suppression of the immune system. Mellor's 5 domains include nutrition, physical environment, health, and behavioral interaction. Behavioral interaction includes behavioral interaction with the environment, other animals, and also humans. These 4 domains affect a 5th domain, the mental state, which affects the state of well-being. Stress can arise from any of the Mellor's domains. Interaction with human beings can change the behavior of the Wadden birds. As a result, behaviors such as foraging, parental care, and mate choice are influenced. For example, the animal is busy foraging, finding a partner, or taking care of their young. If it has to flee, the animal cannot fully focus on this behavior and will have to stop with this behavior at that very moment. At high tide, animals rest in places that remain above the water. These can be places where many people come or where buildings are built. Because the animals have to flee, their foraging behavior gets disrupted. They cannot fully focus on foraging or cannot forage at all. Because of this, they eat less and get less nutrients in. This greatly affects birds that migrate. If these birds do not get enough nutrients, they don't have the energy to fly long distances. The animal might avoid the area or they become accustomed to the presence of humans. This can reduce the population in the area and affects the behavior of the animals. And so the cycle of problems related to the 5 domains of Mellor are repeated. Individuals respond differently to environments and have different adaptability. Individuals also differ in behavior, psychology, stress reactions, stress pathology, and have different learning processes. Because of these differences, well-being also differs between individuals. Coping styles refer to different response strategies for dealing with threats and challenges that lead or may lead to stress, based on the individual's personality. This can be divided into proactive and reactive, also known as bold and shy, or extrovert and introvert. In a proactive coping style, the individual actively takes up the challenge, quickly develops fixed, rigid routines, has low HPA activity, and high aggression. Proactive individuals are more impulsive than reactive individuals. They are also more sensitive to changes in the environment, and they develop more stereotyped behavior when stressed. In a reactive coping style, the individual has a low aggression, is more flexible in behavioral responses, and has a higher HPA activity. Individuals with a reactive coping style have more flexibility behavior and adapt more easily than those with a proactive coping style. We also did a little experiment where we would take a distance of 100 meters from a bird, approximately, and then would slowly step towards the bird, and every 10 steps or so, we would record what the bird is doing at that specific time, whether it's picking into the ground, it's walking, or it's looking up. And eventually, after a while, the bird would fly away. This is called an FID, otherwise known as a flight-induced distance. What this means is that the bird is disturbed enough to the point where the bird will stop doing whatever it's doing and fly away, because it feels threatened. Now this distance is depending on a lot of things, like weather conditions, environmental changes, whether the bird has a safe location nearby or not, how big the individual is that's walking towards the bird, but it's also dependent on the size of the bird. So here's a graph that visually shows the frequency of behaviors a bird showed while stepping towards the bird. So at 0 steps you can see it's looking up, but it's also walking and foraging a lot. But the closer you get to 130 steps towards the bird, the least amount of foraging is shown. This means the bird is so aware of your presence that it won't even forage anymore and is basically only looking up towards you to know whether it should fly away or not. However, this little research does not show whether a bird is greatly impacted by the effects of human disturbance. This is just a way to test how birds react the closer you get to them. At the end of testing the 5 domains of Mellor, the factors described form a positive or negative well-being picture. In certain areas, however, there may be an increased risk in which certain negative effects and well-being problems may occur. Their existence does not directly mean that the expected well-being problems are serious. Any assumptions of negative effects must always be supported by physical, physiological, and/or psychological evidence. Now this concludes our documentary. Thank you very much for watching.